So what you're gonna need are some sparklers. If you are using sparklers, you're gonna wanna definitely do this outside. If you're wanting to work inside, you could use a flashlight. You could use anything that has light, your cell phone, the light on that. But here's a couple sparklers, different variations. The big long ones I got at a fireworks store in Fort Mill over by Carowinds. And then the little sparklers, they have them at Harris Teeter or Publix. You can get them pretty much anywhere. I think a 6-pack is $2. So grab some sparklers for the 4th of July. The next thing you're gonna wanna have is a tripod for your camera. We need that because we are setting our shutter speed to be really slow, which means that motion is going to show and we need it to be steady. The next thing we're gonna look at is the back side of my camera, and it's showing us the 3 things that we need to change and alter in order to do light painting. That is your shutter speed. That's on the far left. That's measured in seconds or fractions of seconds. The middle is your f-stop, that's your aperture, and then the last thing is your ISO. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those 3 things are, how to change them, but first thing you need to do is make sure that you're shooting in manual mode. That's going to make it much easier to set all these things at one time. So your ISO determines how sensitive the image is to the light, and we're going to talk a little bit about my shutter speed and aperture right now. So here you can see the top of my camera, and I'm just rolling that dial until you have the M set to the little position where it's next to the notch. And on the back of the camera, you can see it's set to M, which is our manual mode. This is what we need to do to get ready for light painting. Now that we're in manual mode, we're gonna need to change our aperture. So you can see I put some information here on whether you're working with Nikon or Canon on how to change it. If your camera isn't working the same as the 2 I put up here, you're gonna just need to get your manual out, instruction manual, or you can even Google it, and you need to be able to change your aperture. So that's our next step. So what I mean when I say changing your aperture is how open or closed your lens is. So if it's wide open, like you see on the left here on the chart, it's letting more natural light in. The smaller that little opening gets, less light comes in. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about aperture. A good place to start with your aperture when you're trying to do light painting is start with it around f8. Then if your shot is too light, keep increasing the f-stop until you have the exposure you want it to be. Next, you're gonna wanna set your ISO. So on my camera, I work on a Nikon. I hit the little I button for info, and that's where I can adjust that. I wanna set it to around 100 for this. The last and most important thing is setting our shutter speed. So if we look at this little chart, we can see if we're doing action photography, we're out photographing at a sporting event, we want to freeze it, we can see that on the left side, those are the numbers we want to try and set it to. When we are working with movement and blur and light painting, we want to have it all the way over to the other side of the diagram that we're seeing here. It refers to how long our shutter, that little thing that goes in front of your camera to take the picture, that little screen that moves. So how long is the camera seeing what we're doing? So do we want to see it for a couple seconds? We can see all the way over on the right, we're going to be able to see that. It's going to be blurry if things are moving. That's what we want for light painting. If we have a really quick shutter speed, so it's like click, click, and it takes a photo, that's something when it's going to freeze it. But when you hear click, it's photographing, it's photographing, it's photographing, and clicks off. That's what we need for light painting. That's because the numbers that are on the left side of the diagram are fractions of seconds. So we've got little fractions of seconds all the way to the right where we have actual seconds. So we need to have at least 2 seconds, maybe 5 seconds to get all the movement in that we need for our light painting. So here's a few examples I pulled off the internet of when you want to freeze it and you have that fast shutter speed. This is what it will look like. It freezes the motion. But when we are doing light painting, we want to do a slower one. So if we can get 5 seconds, that's perfect. 2 seconds usually is enough. It depends on what you're doing with your light painting. So I'm going to show you some examples of light painting now, and then you're good to go. So here's a really cool light painting photo that actually Miss McKemmy sent me that she took on her camera. So you can see that she has the model staying still. She set it up. She did a manual focus on him before she started doing anything. So her camera was set up, it was dialed in, ready to roll. Then she set her shutter speed and took the photo, and it created a really cool image here. These are some other ones that I did last weekend with some friends. We went camping. So you can see that it's a really loose, kind of playful way we were working with the camera. You can see there's different movements happening, people moving, people not. So you can really experiment and play. You can use flashlights, sparklers, all kinds of things. The most important thing is just to practice, get out there, try different things, and see what you can do, and you're going to guaranteed come out with some really cool photographs. So good luck.